Hello, YouTube land. Um, you're getting the raw, uncut version of Chris today. I guess I look about the same as I do every other day. My hair is always sticking up because I shower at night and then just start running first thing in the morning. I'm sure all of you do similar things. If you don't have to work in the public, it kind of helps with that. Yeah. So this should be our last video talking about my life story. And from here, from here, we start to talk about other things, right? Other things that I've learned about health and wellness and sobriety. I mean, to me, they all go hand in hand, right? We get sober, and then after a while, we start to think about our health because, again, like I said in previous videos, we become important, right? I'm important now. When I was in my addiction, the addiction was the most important thing, right? And I think a lot of society teaches us that our job and others are the most important thing. But really, if you don't have your health, you don't have your wellness, and you're not addiction free, then what can you do for society or for others? How can you actually help someone else? Right? How can you love someone else if you don't love yourself? Right? So that's the key factor of why I think all of this stuff goes together with the addiction, and why I'm talking about my life story, why I'm laying it out for you guys. I left out some stuff because, you don't need to know everything, but you need to know the basics so that you understand why I come and I do these videos, right? The reason I do these videos is to try to relate to others that are going through similar issues and give you some light at the end of the tunnel, to let you know that it does work. It does work, right? I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't need AA, and I don't need," and that's perfectly fine, right? As long as you're happy and healthy and moving in a good direction, you can do that any way you want, right? All I found in my life is AA adds to that. It keeps me honest. It keeps me working on myself. And it gives me a community of others that are in the same boat, right? And same thing with NA. When I say AA, I mean AA, NA, or any of the A's, right? Any of the self-help groups that are out there. Now, if you can afford a counselor and you just want to do the counselor thing and work with a good counselor that challenges you and makes you look at your stuff, right? You're working on the 85%, right? That's what you got to do. Then that's awesome, right? If you have a really close family and they're willing to help you and do things for you and again, keep you honest and keep you working on your 85%, then that's awesome, right? I don't have those things, so I use Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous because they're free, right? All you do is donate a little bit of money and it's cheap, man. I mean, a beer, that's what we ask for, is a beer in the bar, $5-6, whatever they are nowadays. I have no idea. I think they're probably $6. So, yeah, that's what we do. So the finishing off of my life story should be fairly straightforward. Once I figured out that I needed to make some changes in my life, and I let some things go, as I said in the last video, it was then time to do some other things, right? So one thing I did is I always wanted to move to British Columbia. So me and the girlfriend went and we moved to the Okanagan. And we toured around the Okanagan. We lived in Penticton for a year. And then we lived just outside of Vernon for a year. And I worked in Kelowna and Vernon and Penticton, doing carpentry for a company. It was a really good experience. I got paid decent money, but it was a really good experience. I would retire in Penticton, one of these days. If that's the best I can do, then that's where I'll end up retiring, right? It just has a lot to do, for a retired person. You can bicycle or walk or do whatever in that area. And then when I lived in Penticton, one of my neighbors had an old motorhome that needed some work. And it needed quite a bit of work. I didn't quite understand fully because I've never owned a motorhome or a travel trailer before. And I didn't know how damaged they get just from a little bit of water, right? Like, they fall apart. They're not meant to last. So I bought it for cheap. I mean, he had brand new tires on it and a full tank of gas and a full tank of propane, and gave me some parts and whatever, and I bought it for $3,000, right? So, I mean, it's a 28-foot motorhome. Everything works in it, for $3,000 with brand new tires. I mean, the tires were $2,000. So I basically paid $1,000 for the motorhome. And at first I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just bought it because it was cheap, and I thought, well, that'd be cool. I've never owned one and had the money, and everybody in BC seems to have a motorhome or a travel trailer. So I was like, well, let's try it out and we'll see. Maybe we can go away on the weekends and whatever. And but what ended up happening in Penticton and Vernon is the girlfriend's family problems followed us, right? And her mom and her brother moved out there against my wishes. I didn't want them to move out there. I wanted them to give us some time to get settled, but that's not what happened. And so when we were in Vernon, the motorhome came in handy a couple times, right? I had to escape the house, living with the girlfriend's mother, and I had to leave, right? So I went and lived in the motorhome for a bit. And then that problem went away, thank God. Got away from those people. And then I hadn't had a vacation or a break, except for the treatment center, probably since I was a teenager, right? I've never taken a vacation or had the money to go on holiday or do anything like that. So I had unemployment, and I had quite a bit saved up because I had worked for that same company for 2 years straight. And I wanted to explore some more British Columbia. I thought maybe we'd move to the island, Vancouver Island, or maybe White Rock. We went to visit White Rock a couple times, and it's a really nice little town too, right on the ocean, which would be awesome. There's palm trees, and in Canada, that's pretty amazing, right? So I said to the girlfriend, I said, let's put our stuff in storage, sell everything we don't need, really, put the rest in storage, and we'll go tour around in this motorhome, right? I'll fix it up, and we'll tour British Columbia we did for 10 months, right? That's how long my unemployment lasted. Hers was a little less, but that's okay. When you're living on the road, you don't spend a lot, right? Gas was a big cost. It was about $800 a month in gas for us to cruise around in this thing, and then food, right? And that's it. Some basic maintenance we did. We ended up having to do the brakes, so that was a $2,000 touch. We put a new mattress in, and we actually put a wood stove in it, just because it was kind of damp, right? Especially in the Lower Mainland and on Vancouver Island in the winter, it was very damp, and wasn't very cold, but it was damp. It was a damp cold, so it was it wasn't pleasant. But we really got to see, we went up to Whistler to see some friends of the girlfriend's friends, and we spent a little bit of time around Vancouver, North Vancouver and South Vancouver and all these different areas of Vancouver. We went out to White Rock for a little bit and checked that out. We went across to Vancouver Island, like I said, and went to Duncan and Nanaimo and Victoria and Souk, and this place I really liked was Port Renfrew. It was a quiet little town right on the west side of Vancouver Island, right on the ocean. It was super beautiful, quiet. It was a great place, and so we got to explore that, and we went up to Comox, Courtenay, and a couple other places we went. I really enjoyed it. I would just tour and live in the motorhome for the rest of my life if I could. You know, not really in the cards right now, but when I can, you know, I'm in my early 50s, so in 8-10 years, I could be easily, happily living in a van down by the river. If you get that quote, then you're as old as me. Hey, gotta love Chris Farley. So, yeah, we went and toured, and because I had done all that emotional work on myself previously, like I was talking about in the last video for the whole video, I was pretty good with myself, right? Like I was starting to put boundaries in place. I was starting to learn how to do that kind of stuff, how to really protect my emotional self. I was looking after myself a lot better. Things were really good. Like I'm really growing inside. And I had my acreage rented out to some really good people when we were in Penticton, and then even part of the way in Vernon, and then they ended up moving due to work reasons. And I put some new people in, and they were not good. Addiction issues. They destroyed my house. I think I said in the previous video, they burnt down my barn, burnt down a storage shed, almost burnt the house down. And I know it was addiction issues. I know it was massive addiction issues that were going on. But I wasn't here to look after it, right? My stepdad passed away, and his house was sitting empty. It's not much of a house. It's a 350, 400 square foot little house. But it's sitting here empty, and he gave it to my family, and my mom was going to sell it for $8,000. I'm like, no, you don't do that. You just sell it to me for $8,000. But we decided to keep it and fix it up together, and then we're going to rent it out or sell it or whatever. We'll figure out what's going on at that time. Right now, that's currently where I'm living. So I'm living in a little house, and I've kind of made the motorhome my my office space, for lack of, yeah, that's what it is. And my recording studio. Ha 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 ha. Hey? So we came back to Manitoba. And then I just got a job with a company here out just about half an hour away in Dauphin, and worked there for a year. But I noticed that I couldn't get any of the stuff done that I needed to get done on this little house or on my acreage. I now have new renters in there that they're constantly late with the rent. It's a real pain in my ass. But the yard needs a good cleaning. It's been neglected since I left. And so if I want to sell it, I gotta clean it, and I have to live in it for 2 years so that I don't have to pay capital gains tax, right? Capital gains tax in Canada is 50% of whatever your profit is. So you make 100,000 off selling your house. Well, they want $50,000, right? It's that simple. So, but if it's your primary residence, then you're excluded. So I have to live in it for at least 2 years before I sell it. So the plan is to just live in this little house for this summer, because it's just turned May. It's the middle of May right now. And then next May, June, I'll move into the acreage again. And that way I can really, in the evenings and everything after work, I can really work on the property and get it looking as good as possible in that 2 years, so that if I decide to sell, I can sell. If I want to keep it, well, then it's looking good and I can keep it, right? I used to have a 2-acre garden that's all grown in with grass again, quack grass and everything again. So I have to get all that back functioning. I'd really like to sell it as a business. So you can, sell strawberries, sell herbs, sell all the stuff I was doing before. And I've started working for myself again. So I'm taking on my own contracts. I'm not buying any material. That is up to the homeowner, and I've lost numerous jobs because of that, because they don't want to take the risk of buying the material and then I screw up or whatever. I said, that's fine. You phone somebody else. You've already been waiting 2 years for someone to come. If you're going to turn me away, well, then you can wait another 2 years for somebody else to show up, right? I don't care. I don't have a lot of expenses here, so I can say no to all kinds of jobs. Yeah. So we're moving on, right? We're moving on the 10 years. Now we're at 17 years sober to this day. Actually, June 27th will be my 17th year of sobriety. And that's just shocking to me. Shocking. And not a day do I regret quitting. Right? Not a day. My life is so much better now, right? And I keep saying that over and over again. I have problems. I have lots of problems, right? Life doesn't just quit because you've decided to get rid of your addictions, right? Life comes at you and you got to be ready to deal with it. But now I deal with it in different ways, right? I go to the gym. I go to AA. I am volunteering for a bunch of different things in the community. So I'm really trying to, help give back to the community. But it's also allowing me to meet people, right? I didn't really do that when I lived out here before. I lived way out in the country. By the time I was done work, I just wanted to go home. Like I said to you, I worked a lot of hours. 16 hours a day was 14 to 16 hours a day is pretty normal, right? 7 days a week. You just add it up. That's a lot of hours. So, and some days even more than that. I bet you 20 hours I'd end up working, right? I barely slept. So I didn't volunteer. I didn't get to know my community. I didn't do any of those things. So I'm really doing that now that I don't have much expenses. And that's something that we should all do, right? Whether we quit addictions or not, we should give back, right? I started an AA group here in the little town of Grandview where I'm living. Didn't have one. This area desperately needs AA and NA meetings. So I started an AA meeting, and then right after that, we have an NA meeting. So it's open to anyone. And I have a core group of people that show up every meeting, and they're learning and growing, and it's awesome to see, right? It's amazing for me to see. So that's where we are there. I'll talk a few minutes here about once I sobered up again, the health aspect. So we'll talk about that now, right? So stiff, sore, pain, hurting, yoga. Yoga, it was amazing thing. like I said, I didn't have very much money and I couldn't drive in the beginning. So what I did is I went online and I was watching yoga at this doyogawithme.com. It comes from Victoria, British Columbia, and and it really helped relieve a lot of the back pain and shoulder pain, and it didn't relieve it all, right? And it didn't last forever. Like if I stopped doing it for a couple days, it would be right back to where it was. But it did do some relief. It was a lot more relief than the pills were, right? So that's how I got off the Robaxacet, is I started to do yoga every day, and it was amazing. And that website's free, right? It's still free to this day. They asked for donations. I did eventually donate to them because they'd helped me out so much, and I would recommend their website to anyone, right? Yoga was amazing. And it really connected me with my mind and body and spirit inside. It was weird. But again, the addiction had made me lose that connection to my body, right? And so it started to reconnect me. And it started to show me where all of the problems were in my body, and where I had to focus on stuff, right? So it was really good, right? And then once I got my wheels back and I got a little bit more money coming in, I started going to the gym, and with a bad back and a bad shoulder and neck pain and walking with a limp and my eye drooping, and you'd think, well, what would be the point of that, right? Like, why would you force yourself to do that when you could barely function, right? Like, if you guys would have saw me, I was in bad shape. But I was learning off the internet. Again, no money, so I would just listen to people on the internet and try stuff. And sometimes I listen to somebody, I'm like, I'm not trying that. That doesn't seem right. But a lot of it, really helps in little ways. You keep adding this little bit and this little bit and this little bit, and it makes a big change in your life. So I was listening to some guys, this chiropractor guy, and he was saying how you need to get fluids and you need to move the joints, and the discs in between the vertebrae need to be moved so that they get new fluid and in them, right? You actually have to physically do something to move that fluid in. It doesn't just happen, right? It doesn't happen if you're just sitting there. So what I did is I went to the gym and I got a membership. And I remember the guy that owns the gym, Dawson, was like, I don't know if you should be here, because that's how hurting I was, right? And but I got there and I started on the treadmill, right? That was the easiest thing I could do just to get some movement in, right? Other than work, right? Like, work is not the same as the gym. It's just not the same. I was a carpenter. I worked as a roofer. It is not the same as the gym. So I started running on the treadmill with my limp, and it was quite something, I'm sure, to watch. They would just be watching me from the counter, right? And I would be running on the treadmill, and after a couple of weeks, I started to get more confident in there, and so I walked up to the owner and I said, well, why are you guys like staring at me all the time? Why are you watching me? Like, and he said, well, you got that limp and you can barely move and you're right at the very back of the treadmill. We're just waiting for you to fall off. Like, we're just waiting to phone the ambulance for you. And that was really shocking to me, because here I'd been working construction all these years. I'm a pretty strong fellow, right? But here, these guys at the gym were looking at me like I was a sick dude that was ready to fall over and die, right? Like that's how they saw me. And again, I couldn't see myself when we're living in the problem of the addiction, or we're living in the problem of the family that's not supporting, right? Or we're living through a narcissistic mother, right? Or we're living through that physical pain and the drooping eye and all the stuff. We don't see it like other people see it. So we need other people to give us that input back. And a lot of people will not, because they don't want to offend you, right? But here they were like, no, we're waiting for you to fall off so we can call an ambulance. Like, that's why we're watching you like that, because you're hurting, right? You're a lot sicker than, they didn't say that, but inferred that I was a lot sicker than I thought I was, right? And so working with them, or working in the gym, and from there I started to do other exercises that I'd learned off the internet, like pulling exercises, a lot of pulling my, back pulls and face pulls and all this to get the back shoulders stronger and to get my posture better, right? A lot of it was to do with posture and head carriage, forward head carriage, and all these things that we never think about, right? But those are all the things that really matter in our health, right? And as I'm doing that, that's when I started to reach out to all of these other massage therapists and Reiki people, and I met Walter. I talked about him in a previous video, the Korean doctor dude, and I started working with all these different people, and again, like, a chiropractor is a chiropractor. That's what people think, but that's not how it is. Some chiropractors are a lot better than others, right? If your chiropractor smokes cigarettes, it's probably not a good idea to go and ask him about health things, or to go to him or her to get healthy, because they're not healthy, right? Like, they're just not. They're still smoking. They're not healthy. So I don't know any of this stuff. So I'm learning all this stuff as I go, right? And learning what Reiki is. I had no idea what Reiki is, and energy work and all that kind of stuff. And it was a real eye-opener to me that they actually do stuff. It actually works in some ways. Some ways it doesn't. Some things doesn't. But in other things, it works really well. Like, if you find the right chiropractor and the right Reiki person and the right massage therapist, and you're doing the exercises, and you're eating right, and you're drinking good water, and you're sleeping right, things start to change, right? Things start to change. And it was amazing, the changes that happened, right? I had a comment on one of my first videos. I think the very first one I put out was asking me if I was ever diagnosed with ADHD, right? And then in the short I put out, the only short I've ever put out, because I like to talk, is I said no, I wasn't, and I probably should have been, because as a kid I was a hyperactive kid, right? The hyperactivity, though, I could channel, right? So when I was a young kid, I would go long distance running, right? So I would run for 25, 30 kilometers in one shot, I remember riding this old 10-speed bicycle I had, probably around 200 kilometers in a day, because I could do 50 kilometers an hour on it, so pretty easily. And so it was not a big deal to do 200K, people look at, oh, that's so much, but when you're in good shape, you're healthy, you can do amazing things, right? And so that's where I'm trying to get back to. That's what I'm trying to have happen in my life, right? So for the last 7 years, since my 10-year anniversary, where I made those life changes, those decisions to make those changes, I have been getting better and better and better and better and better and healthier and healthier and healthier and healthier. I still have a little bit of an eye droop. I don't know if that'll ever go away fully. I know that the right side here, my lats, they're not as strong as the left side. You know, there's still a lot of work for me to do on this right side. I met a guy that does Rolfing, or structural integration. They call it two different things. And he was helping me get my lung to function better on this side. But he was on Vancouver Island. So now I have to find a new one. I think there's a guy in Winnipeg. I'm going to have to start going there and working with him to get this side functioning better, because it's myofascial tissue. And when we go through trauma, whether it's physical or emotional, the myofascial tissue glues together. And I'll talk about more of this maybe on the next video. And when it glues together, it kind of sticks you together. And so your muscles don't work properly. Right? So you need someone to go in there and kind of break it up. Right? And that's again why you need the drinking of water and eating right, sleeping right, all that stuff helps the myofascial tissue heal, right? But you really need someone to go in there and break it up a bit and get it to separate so that your muscles move properly. And I think that's a reason why my lung doesn't fully function. It's a lot better than it was years ago, like lots better, but it does. So yeah, that, 7 years, I've learned more in 7 years. We always learn. I think we're always learning, and we always should be learning, right? We shouldn't stay stagnant. Once you stay stagnant, you're done, right? You get crusty and grumpy, and you're no fun to be around. People that are learning and growing and trying new things in life are always way more fun to be around. So I'm hoping all of you do that, right? If I can inspire you guys to do that too, then that would be great. Try new things. Yoga, man. I thought it was a joke. I really did. I thought, oh, what do these people know? Like, it's only been around for a couple thousand years. What do they know that I don't know, right? But it works. It's great, and it's a lot of fun. Once I started getting better at it, I was doing headstands and all kinds of bridges, and yeah, man, it does lots for us. Gets our mobility going. And I'll talk more about all this stuff as we continue along. Again, we're over a 30-minute mark, and I want to keep them fairly short. Any comments you guys have, any questions, thumbs ups, subscriptions, I know it's early to ask for, but anything that could help my channel grow and get out there to more people, I would love it. So, again, have a great day, because I have been already, and I'm going to continue. I'm going to an AA meeting out on one of the reserves north of Dauphin here tonight. To be the first time of me going up there, and I'm looking forward to it. Each meeting I go to, they do it a little different ways. There's new people to visit and talk to and learn from, and I always learn a lot from when I go to meetings on the reserves or that are run by the native Canadian people. Like, they have a way different way of taking things and looking at life, and I really appreciate that, right? I enjoy it. If it's the same thing over and over again, just like our lives, if it's the same day, Groundhog Day, it gets boring really quick. So when you can get out there and experience other things, it's just great, right? So again, have a great day. Thanks for watching, you guys, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.